on the overhead department?
I'll switch to the camera. There you go.
Yep. Ready to go, folks? Calling the meeting of the Yarmouth Water Utility to order. Record of attendance, Jody has that. Agenda, any items to be added or deleted to the agenda? Councillor Mooney, you got anything to add? Hearing none, could we have a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor McIsaac, seconded by Councillor Dennis. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary, carried. Item of business tonight, we only have one item, and that is the budget. And we have the budget before you for the Yarmouth Water Utility, and Mr. Varon, our finance officer, is with us, and maybe we'll turn it over to Jerry to kind of give us the highlights, and then we'll go from there.
So just quickly, there's a paper copy in front of you because since the draft was sent out, Dave's had a chance to review it before he went away. And so I've made a few tweaks, or Dave's made a few tweaks to the budget. And so the paper copy is the latest version, and the version we're looking for recommendation to be approved. Basically with the water utility, you can see that from last year's budget, we are projecting less revenue again this year. It just seems to be the way the water usage is going. So we actually have came in about 35,000 under budget this year, so we're projecting about another 15,000 less than next year, just in water revenues, general commercial and domestic. The fire protection, that runs pretty consistent, and will be relatively consistent again next year, but that does fluctuate a little bit from year to year, again based on volumes that go through the different meters that we have. Not a lot overall on the revenue side. It is a bit of a decrease, about 45,000 or so from last year's actuals, and again we just see that as that's the trend in our commercial and domestic billings. On the expenditures.
Excuse me, Jerry. Councillor McIsaac, you had a question?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair, but I'll wait till he's finished and I'll ask my question.
I'll keep your mic active. Yep. Sorry. Thank you, Jerry. Sorry.
So I think this is presented similar to what we do with the town's budget. So the first page is the summary page. So I'd like to, if I could, just flip through into page 2, which does give you a little more detailed breakdown of the different revenues, and you can see from there where we're expecting small decreases. The forecasts, we don't get too in depth in looking at those. You'll see small increases, but again, we might be looking at a bit of a rate increase at that time, so that's all we're looking at there. So the highlighted is the 15-16 budget, and you can see from that we're expecting just small decreases in both the residential and commercial rates. So revenue is pretty consistent. Small decreases projected or expected. In page 3, we get into the different expense lines, and I guess the difference there is on the collection and administration side. You'll see a little bit of an increase on the salaries and benefits line, and that is with the person or the one position that was hired down at the wastewater plant. We'll also do some work in the water utility as well. So there's a bit of an increase in the salary and benefits in the collection side, and that has to do also with the change of positions in our office, where we reorganized a little bit with the heritage position as well. So some of that's reflected, but salaries and benefits are pretty consistent, and they're based on basically percentages and allocations of different staff within this building, and then the 3 full-time staff now we have at the plant itself. So other than that, general admin and things go pretty consistent. You can see budget to budget, a couple $1,000 difference overall. Not a lot to talk about on the general admin side, except for that salary line being changed a bit. Taxes, those are just property taxes that are levied, and the utility does pay property taxes. Down at the bottom of page 3, the source and supply, again, pretty consistent. A little bit less in some gas, and that's just based on the experience that we've had over the last few years. Again, no big changes through that, through the source and supply expenditures. In page 4, the power and pumping, again, that's basically the plant itself. Big expense there is the power and then the heating fuel. And they're relatively consistent. Talked with Dave about the budget. He was comfortable leaving where it was, even though it came in a little bit over budget this year. So, and that's kind of a hit and miss, and you do best you can on that guess. So those are the two expenditures, big ones in the power and pumping side. Middle of the page on the purification. One thing that we do there is with the water testing. You'll see we do that through the hospital now, so that does fluctuate a bit, but that's something that I guess based on just the operations of the plant itself, if they feel they need to do, they do the regular testing, but anything close, I guess, they do extra testing as well. So we do lots of testing, and that's just a matter of how many do they do extra. That's not doing less than we need, we do more than we need. Cleaning the wastewater and the lagoons, you'll see the amount budgeted there. It didn't get done, and you'll see in the actuals a zero there, but I think Dave has an invoice there for us to accrue, so that will change a little bit. But again, things are pretty consistent with the purification with the plant itself. The chemicals are the big expense there. They're relatively consistent. Again, that's the one thing that's kind of based on the volume of what we produce. Transmission, distribution. The first few lines there, you'll see the labor. Those fluctuate a bit, and those are based on what actually happens out in the streets and with our Public Works Department. So as the Public Works Department have leaks or have different issues with the water lines, their salaries are allocated to those when they fix them, so their hours are pegged through our payroll system, and they're charged there. So you see a bit of fluctuation, but over the course of a number of years, you do see basically a trend of roughly what we budget each year. So that's all we do is we look back over the last 3 or 4 years, and basically you can get a pretty good guesstimate of what those will be for the year. With the maintenance of the reservoirs and sand pipes, you'll see that there was a large expenditure last year. That was to get the painting done in one of the tanks. So that's one of the changes from this year, from the draft budget, I guess, to this one, is that Dave said that won't be done this year. So he's got just a $5,000 amount, and that's the maintenance of reservoirs and stand pipes. It's only $5,000 as opposed to the 50, so that was a little reduction from the first one we had. And again, the leak survey down towards the end. He does different leak testing and partial leak surveys in different parts of the system, but not a full survey itself. So he said on the years that he's not doing the full one, it's more like 15,000. So that was 25. So again, a little reduction in the expense there. So on the 5th page, you can see the debt reduction and also a little bit of capital revenue. So again, the change from where Dave was saved on the maintenance on the other lines, as I noted, we plugged in $50,000 to be spent out of capital out of revenue just on the transmission lines for now. So with the capital and how we'll fund that this year will be through the depreciation fund. And so we'll have $50,000 out of operations, and then the rest of the money for the capital will come out of the depreciation fund. And I think as we've talked with our consultant about the study that he started or did a little bit of work on for us, that we could spend close to $500,000 a year for the next couple of years out of our depreciation fund. But again, with his study and what we'll do in the fall, and that'll be the reason why you'll see the discussion around an increase in the fall is because we'll have to generate more money as we do more capital projects. So we have money now. We don't have an increased budget for this year, but our capital will be spent out of the depreciation fund.
Councilor McIsaac.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question will be, I got 2 questions, and Jeff, probably these questions are for you. The work we're having done at the wastewater treatment plant, does that money come out of this budget, or is it out of capital?
Mr. Chair, the wastewater, so the water utility is just the water treatment plant
Okay.
in Lake George
Okay.
and the distribution
Okay,
infrastructure.
just for the water
That's-
part.
That's right. The wastewater is still part
Okay,
of the town.
okay.
That comes out of our town capital budget.
Then my second question will be, thank you, my second question will be, I've noticed over the winter months, when you could see down at the wharves when it wasn't snowing and blowing, we have a few ships come in, government ships come in. And I noticed as going down there a few times, and anyway, they were taking on water, but they were taking on water with a garden hose from the ice plant. And I've noticed over the years, I know we have a water service place there, but I think my recollection is that it's under where you drive, right on the roadway. Would it be worth looking at more visible place for accessing water where boats would know that they could take on water at our public wharves? I know it's quite a chore to get water down there. When I'm just thinking, is there a more adaptable way of ships getting water from the town of Yarmouth? We have 3 wharves, or 2 big major wharves, and it's always been a problem. I know the big ships that I've been on with Coast Guard, we've never taken on water here because of, you have to call the town down, and it's quite a process to hook up. In other parts of cities and towns, it's not a big deal because they have lines going there. Would it be feasible to have a look at that and perhaps a more visible sign, whatever, saying water, whatever, like we do at the fire department for people that take on water, sort of a chip system? I don't know, card system, whatever. I'll let you answer that.
Okay, so the short answer, I guess, or one answer to that is that the utility owns the distribution network but does not own the individual services. And so the service that would go out on any individual wharf would be a service to the owner of the wharf. In this case, I think the case you're talking about, it would be the Industrial Commission. So the Industrial Commission could add any infrastructure they want to service their customers, right? But it would be through their meter. And so, we are part of the Industrial Commission, so that is something that we should take there. But the utility itself wouldn't provide that service out across their property to the boats.
Thank you very much.
Just a quick follow-up. But we already own the services that's there. The services were put there way before the Industrial Commission was incorporated. So I guess what we're saying is the town lines that's in there on the wharf no longer belong to the town? The water lines and that's there no longer belong to the town? Or is it just, if that's the case, then the lines that's going into the building where the harbor master is, there's a line, a water line that goes there. Does the town own that or not? So if it doesn't own that, it doesn't own all the other lines that's on the wharfs? The water lines that belongs to the town of Yarmouth, they don't no longer own those?
I can't say for certain that we've ever owned them. The property was federal property before it was divested. And I assume, and I can be corrected on this, I'll look into it, but I would assume that any line that comes off of our main is metered. And so if it was our line going out to the vessel, there would be a meter there. And if you're telling me that it's our line, then it's our meter.
No, I'm asking you that, I'm not
Yeah,
telling
and
you.
I'm not sure. I'm making an assumption based on the normal sort of setup.
Okay.
But we can look into that and find out if it's ours or if it's the commission's.
Well, perhaps maybe, not coming from this water utility, perhaps the chair and yourself could probably look at that and perhaps make a recommendation to the Yarmouth Industrial Commission. I don't know, just a thought. I mean, the ships are not being serviced, I don't think, properly. And different other ports, they are serviced. If it's just a matter of going through one bureaucracy in a gray area, I mean, let's face it, we own part of that wharf. We own 25 or more % of that. The same with the municipality of Argyll and the town and the municipality of Yarmouth. So we do. We own it, along with the other 2 municipal units. So I guess what I'm saying is if we can make it more efficient and sell our product, I think we should look into it.
Yep, the first question is the ownership, and so we'll find out about the ownership. And, you know, if we own it, then it's our decision. And if they own it, then it's their decision, but certainly we could bring it to their attention.
Are you comfortable, Councillor, with it? Do you want to make that as a motion, or are you comfortable that staff will just look into it?
Well, I'll make a motion that we explore the working together with the other 2 municipal units to supply a water service to the Lobster Rock and the public wharf, or public wharf and Lobster Rock wharf. Those are the 2 biggest wharfs. Look into supplying a up-to-date water service.
Maybe to report back at the next meeting of the utility.
Probably our next meeting of the committee of the whole, or
Utility,
shortly
at the
after,
utility.
right?
Yeah, to
Yep.
the utility.
Your utility, thank you.
We have a mover. Do we have a seconder to the motion? Seconded by Councillor Mooney. Further discussion on the motion. Hold on before we go any further. Mayor moved.
Oh, no, different question.
Different question. Okay, good. Okay.
Thank you.
Question's been called by Councillor Mooney. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Carried. Okay, Mayor Mood.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just am looking at Hydrant Rentals. I think I was reading it backwards.
We love
I
those.
thought it was costing us.
We
but-
love those.
So what happens? What is it? I've never,
The hydrant rentals?
Yeah.
That's, if I can speak, maybe Jerry, you can correct me. We, for fire protection, we generously rent hydrants in the county, which the municipality pay us a rental fee for the privilege of using our
okay,
hydrants.
that's a nice,
Yeah, more or less. Is that part of it, Jeff, or?
In the town,
In the town?
yeah.
In the town, yeah.
So what they do is they figure out, the Water Utility Review Board figures out an amount that the water utility can charge basically fire department
okay.
for having the available water supply at any hydrant. So we take that amount, in our last review, it ended up being 490,000 or roughly or so. I think it was 482. And based on the number of hydrants, we divide that up between the municipality and the town. So the town pays the water utility part of that fee, and the municipality pays the rest.
I gotcha.
Yeah, for the use of hydrants.
Okay,
Yeah.
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 Good.
And go ahead there, CAO.
Yeah, calling it a rental is actually misleading and has caused some confusion in the past with the municipality. It is not truly a rental of a hydrant. It is more an allocation of the fire protection charge. So a hydrant count is how it's allocated. Because it's a fire protection charge, well, what's an easy way to allocate that between 2 municipalities? Count the hydrants and divide the number. But there are other ways, and other municipalities have done studies to see if there are more fair ways to allocate the firefighting charge between municipal units. And they've come up with things, different flow rates and so on. But at the end of the day, the most verifiable and easily applied method is to count the hydrants. And so that's what we've chosen, and nobody's ever asked for it to be done any differently. But when you call it a hydrant rental, it implies that you're actually paying to rent the hydrant, when truly all you're doing is you're sharing the firefighting cost and capacity of the service between the 2 municipal units based on that allocation.
Great explanation. Like that. It was good. Any further questions on the budget for the 2015-16 fiscal year? It's been moved by Councillor McIsaac that we accept the budget as recommended. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Mayor McLeod. Further discussion? The question's been called by Deputy Mayor McLeod. All those in favor of the motion? Aye. Contrary? Carried. Any further business to the water utility? Hearing none, a motion to adjourn. So moved by Councillor McIsaac. Thank you, folks.